Hello, everyone. Oh, don't mind me. I probably look like a hot mess tonight. It's been a long day. Don't feel that great. We got a thunderstorm going on, so I'm hoping I can stay out here. If not, if it gets too loud, I'll bring you guys inside. But I just love being on my porch. So, let me say my hellos. Hello, Puss in Boots. Oh, I'm sorry you have a headache. I hope you feel better. Hello, Christy. Tawanda. Tawanda, you did amazing on your live tonight. So proud of you. Leo's wife, Mar. The truth. This live is a true crime. And the truth knows this case very well. So this crime story is for her. Let's see, who else? Christy Galloway. Hi, guys. Like I said, it's been a long day, stressful day, but we're going to get through it. We're going to push through, guys. So, how is everybody? I hope everybody had a good weekend. It's Sunday. Boo. Monday's tomorrow. Nobody likes Mondays. You only kicked yourself off one time. You did good. And the best part was you found your way back. It was almost where Wogs was going to. Hey, little Kelly. I'm just kind of going to give a few seconds to let people pile in before I get started. So that way I don't kind of have to retrack. So I hope everybody had a good weekend. Yesterday, I don't know if anybody saw it. I tried going live a couple of times. I was out in the woods on my family land with my dogs, and I tried going live a couple of times, and it just wouldn't work. So I ended up making a video, and I posted that. So if anybody wants to see where I go on the weekends with my dogs, check out that video. Other than that, I didn't really do much this weekend. Today, it's been raining off and on all day, but we so have needed the rain so much. My grass is so burnt and it so needs the rain. And who doesn't love a good thunderstorm, right? We've had a couple good ones today, and I just love the sound of rain and thunder and the lightning. Everybody loves a good thunderstorm. I love summertime thunderstorms. So let me get into this. Let's see. I did do research all day Friday. I did some research Saturday. I did some research this morning, and I hope I can do this justice. Hey, Amanda Sue. So this case is called the Shanda Renee Share. I know the last name doesn't sound like Share, but Truth corrected me and let me know her real name so I could get it right. So I appreciate that. This case happened in 1992, January 11th of 1992. So I'm going to give you a little background on Shanda, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the girls that were involved in to what happened. So that way you guys kind of have a rough draft of everybody that was involved. So Shanda was born June 6th of 1979. She was 12 years old when she was tortured, beaten, and burned alive on January 11th, 1992. She was murdered by 4 teenage girls ages 15 to 17. Their names are Melinda Loveless, Lori Tackett, Hope Rippey, and Tony Lawrence. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Go ahead. Come on out. You have perfect timing, my love. Sorry. All right. I'm going to mute. Just listen to me talk. My family's behind me and they don't like to be on camera. So I'm going to end my camera, but I'll continue talking.
Go.
So Tony Lawrence, let me tell you a little about Shanda. She was born in Pineville, Kentucky. She was the daughter to Stephen Cher and Jacqueline Vaught. Her parents divorced and Shanda's mother remarried and they moved to Louisville. Shanda loved sports. She was a cheerleader into volleyball, softball. She also played basketball. Her mother remarried after divorcing her husband, and then her mother divorced again. And when she divorced the second time, she moved to, in 1991, she moved to New Albany, Indiana. So she was, by all accounts, a great young girl. You know, she liked sports. She loved her family. She was very sweet. She made friends very easily. She loved meeting new people. By all accounts, she was just a sweet, sweet girl. Hey, Misdemeanor. And then when she moved to Albany, Indiana, she ended up at a school where she had met these other girls. And we'll get into them. So let's see. Let's give a little backstory on the 4 girls that committed this horrible crime. First is Melinda Loveless. She was the youngest of 3 children to Larry and Marjorie Loveless. Larry was drafted into the Army during Vietnam and was treated as a hero. His wife said her husband, now, even though this crime was absolutely horrible, as you all know, and what these girls did was absolutely not something you should do. But reading in on this case and reading about the girls, Melinda Loveless was the mastermind of this crime, and she had a very tough upbringing. She had a father who loved to wear his children and his wife's undergarments. He loved to wear makeup. He was also sexually abusing all his children. He became a probation officer. He also molested Melinda's cousin. I mean, she just really had a tough upbringing. Not that it condones what she did at all, but it did kind of break my heart to hear of, you know, the upbringing she had. It was a tough upbringing. Then there was, so let me see. Bear with me, guys. Sorry. I mean, this family just was really disturbing. They would go to bars and then they would bring people home and they would have orgies in front of their kids. Like, this girl just had a really, really tough upbringing, and her parents divorced in the summer of 1986, and Melinda was devastated that her father left. Now, that can only explain that her father was molesting her from an infant age. She was an infant all the way through, and she was devastated that her father left. If that only tells you, you know, her mentality of what she saw and what she was raised around and what she thought was right. Then there was Lori Tackett. Lori Tackett was born on October 5th, 1974. Her mother and father were very Christian. Her father was a factory worker with 2 felony convictions in 1960s. Tackett claimed that she was molested at least twice as a child at the age of 5 and 12. Her mother divorced and was changed into schools after a confrontation that night, attempted to strangle her. Social workers became involved, and the Tackett parents agreed to unannounced visits to ensure the child abuse was not occurring. Tackett and her mother came into periodic conflicts. At one point, her mother went to Hope Rippey's house after learning that Rippey's father had purchased a Ouija board for the girls. She demanded that the board be burnt and that Ripley's house be exorcism. Sorry, couldn't speak. Tackett became increasingly rebellious after her 15th birthday. She also fantasized with being in a cult. She would often attempt to impress her friends by pretending to be possessed by spirits. She engaged in self-harm. She, at an early age, began dating girls who involved in the practice. Her parents checked her into a mental hospital. She was prescribed antidepressants. So that is a little bit of a backstory of Lori Tackett. And then there's Hope Rippey, because I really don't want to focus on the girls. I rather focus on Sander, but there really isn't much other than that she was just a wonderful girl. I mean, she was 12. She was excited about life, happy with life. Then there's Hope Rippey. Hope Rippey was born June 9th, 1996. Her father was an engineer at a power plant. She moved in with her mother and siblings for 3 years after her parents divorced. She claimed living with the family in Michigan was somewhat turbulent. Her parents resumed their relationship back in 1987. She reunited back with her friends, who she had known since childhood. Although the parents saw that Tackett was a bad influence, and with the other girls, and Ripley began self-harm at the age of 15. There isn't much on her, the Hope Rippey. Then there's Toni Lawrence. Toni Lawrence was born February in 1976. Her father was a boilermaker. She was close friends with Rippey from childhood. She was abused by a relative at the age of 9 and was raped by a teenage boy at the age of 14. Although the police were only able to issue an order for the boy to keep away from Lawrence. She went to counseling after the incident, but did not follow through. She became promiscuous, began to self-harm, and attempted suicide in the 8th grade. So those are all the girls. That's just a quick rundown of, the girls that committed this crime. And it seems like they were much different than Shanda. So let's see. Let's go to the events prior to the murder. In 1990, 14-year-old Loveless began dating another young girl named Amanda Hebron. I want to say it's Hebron. Truth, if it's wrong, you can correct me, but I'm thinking it's Hebron. After Loveless' father had left the family, her and her mother remarried. Loveless behaved erratically. She got into fights at school and complained of depression, resulting in her receiving professional counseling. Loveless disclosed she was a lesbian, but she was dating Heverin, I can't, Amanda. Let's just call her Amanda because I don't know how to say her last name. She was dating her for over a year and they broke up. And when they broke up, Amanda ended up starting to date Shanda. And this is where the conflict came because Melinda was very jealous that her girlfriend had broken up with her, and it started. She did play a big role. I read on her, yes, she played a big role. Now I just lost my thought. Harriet and Shanda met early in the fall semester in junior high when they got into a fight. However, they became friends while in detention for their altercation and later exchanged romantic letters. Lovelace immediately grew jealous of Amanda and Shanda's relationship. In early October 1991, Amanda and Shanda attended a school dance where Lovelace found, and which is Lovelace is Melinda, found and confronted them. Although Amanda and Lovelace had never formally ended their relationship, Lovelace started to date an older girl. Okay. So after Amanda and Shanda attended the festival together in late October, Melinda began to discuss killing Shanda and threatening her in public. Concerned about the effects of their daughter's relationship with Amanda, Shanda's parents arranged for her to transfer to a Catholic school in late November. So basically, Shanda's parents already knew there was issues with this relationship and with Melinda, and they wanted to protect their daughter. So, hold on. Sorry, my husband forgot the dogs. I got them. Oh, okay. So, her parents were trying to protect Shanda, knew it was a bad relationship, just a bad thing. So they wanted to protect their daughter. So they took her out of the public school and put her in a Catholic school, hoping that would diffuse their relationship and kind of sever them away from each other. So, because they just didn't feel right. Her family just didn't feel right. They just felt like all these girls were a bad influence on Shanda. So, Amanda states she gave letters Melinda sent her containing death threats towards Shanda to a youth prosecutor. But the youth prosecutor never did anything about it as far as she knew. So Amanda, truth can probably come up and give a little bit more backstory on Amanda, but Amanda's trying to act like she tried to help Shanda. And from what I read, I don't believe she did. Here in all the articles that I read, they were trying to say she did, but I really don't think she did from what I kind of gathered from my reading. So the pre-abduction, how this all went down. I'll read it. On the night of January 10th, 1992, Lawrence, age 15, Rippey, age 15, and Tackett, 17, drove in Tackett's car for Madison to Melinda's house in New Albany, Lawrence. While a friend of Tackett's had not previously met Melinda, 16, though Ripley had met her once before and had gotten along with her. Upon arrival, they borrowed some clothes from Melinda, and she showed them a knife. telling them she was going to scare Shanda with it. While Tackett and Lawrence had never met Shanda prior to that night, Tackett had already known of the plan to intimidate the 12-year-old girl. Melinda explained to two other girls that she disliked Shanda for being a copycat and for stealing her girlfriend. Tackett let Rippy drive the four girls to Jefferson, where Shanda stayed with her father on the weekends. They stopped at McDonald's en route to ask for directions. They arrived at Shanda's house shortly before dark. Melinda instructed Ripley and Lawrence to go to the door and introduce themselves as friends of Amanda's, which Amanda is Shanda's girlfriend, Melinda's ex-girlfriend. I just read that. Then invited Shanda to come with them to see Amanda, who was waiting for them at the witch's castle or the Mistletoe Falls, a ruin of stone houses located on an isolated hill overlooking the Ohio River. Shanda said she could not go because her parents were awake. She told the girls to come back around midnight. A few hours later, Melinda was angry at first, but Ripley and Lawrence assured her about returning for Shanda later. The four girls crossed the river to Louisville and attended a punk rock concert. After the punk rock concert, they all got it back in the car and headed back to Shanda's house. So eventually the four girls left Shanda's house. During the ride, Loveless Melinda said she could not wait to kill Shanda. However, Melinda also said she was just intending to use the knife to threaten her. When they arrived at Shanda's house at 12:30 a.m., Lawrence refused to retrieve Shanda. So Tackett and Rippy went to the door. Melinda hid under a blanket in the back seat of the car with the knife. So let's take a minute so I can gain my thoughts. Yes, Shanda was 12 years old. How old was the one who pursued her? There was 17 and 16 and 15. Two were 15, one was 16, one was 17. The main person, Melinda, the one that we're talking about the most, she was actually 17. And she was dating Amanda, which I believe was 16. But like I said, if you remember, Shanda's parents knew this was going to be trouble. They did not agree. They tried to uproot their daughter, put her in a Catholic school, took her out of the school, hoping that would sever the relationship, because they just knew, they had to have known in their gut that this just was not going to be a good thing. So if everybody remembers now, this was January 10th. So now let's go to the abduction, because they literally I can't speak tonight, guys. You know what I'm saying. Oh my God, I can't say that word. Abducted. Thank you. There we go. I'm not saying it again. So that night, Rippy told Shanda that Amanda was still at the witch's castle. Shanda was reluctant to go with them, yet agreed after changing her clothes. As she got in the car, Rippy began questioning Shanda about her relationship with Amanda. Melinda then sprang out from the back seat and put the knife to Shanda's throat. and began interrogating her about her sexual relationship with Amanda. They drove towards the witch's castle. Tackett told the girls that that a local legend said the house was once owned by 9 witches and that townspeople burned down the house to get rid of the witches. At the witch's castle, they took a sobbing Shanda inside and bound her arms and legs with rope. There, Melinda taunted that she had pretty hair and wondered how pretty she would look if they were to cut it off, which frightened Shanda even more. Melinda began taking off Shanda's rings and handing each to the girls. At some point, Rippy had taken Shanda's Mickey Mouse watch and danced to the tune it played. Tackett further taunted Shanda, claiming that the witch's castle was filled with human remains and Shanda would be next. To further threaten Shanda, Tackett then retrieved a shirt with a smiley design from the car and lit it on fire, but immediately feared that the fire would be spotted by passing cars. So the girls left with Shanda. So they started off at this witch's castle. Yes, Mojo. Yes. So they started off at this witch's castle. They were taunting her there, taking off her rings, taking off her watch, saying they were going to cut her hair. This girl is 12 years old. This is the saddest part. She is 12 years old around older teenage girls that are sitting there with knives and lighting shirts on fire and saying they're going to kill her. And it's just horrible. But they were worried that passersby would hear them. So they ended up putting her back in the car and they drove. So during the car ride, Shanda continued begging them to take her back home. Melinda ordered Shanda to slip off her bra, which she then handed over to Rippy, who slid off her own bra and replaced it with Shanda while steering the car. They became lost, so they stopped at a gas station and covered Shanda in a blanket. While Tackett went inside to ask for directions, Lawrence called a boy she knew from Louisville and chatted for several minutes to ease her worries, but she did not mention Shanda's abduction. They returned to the car but became lost again and pulled up to another gas station. There, Lawrence Rippy spotted a couple of boys and talked to them before once going again, getting back into the car and leaving, arriving sometime later at the edge of some woods near Tackett's home in Madison. So basically, they ended up in some woods. So this is how it went down, which this is where it gets really bad. Let me get to that point. Hold on. Let me get there. The ringleader, which is Melinda, is a jealous lover, soon leaped out from under the blanket. I read that part. Let me get to my other paperwork. Hold on. Let me get to my other paperwork. Sorry. Okay, so they first took Shanda to, now they're near the logging road in a densely forest area. Lovelace and Tackett stripped off Shanda's clothes and proceeded to punch her repeatedly. Lovelace hit the victim's face with her knees until she bled profusely from her mouth. Meanwhile, Lawrence and Ripley stayed behind in Tackett's car. The torture wasn't enough to make the other girls come out, but then they tried to slit Shanda's throat, but the knife was too dull. Instead, they stabbed her in the chest and strangled her with a rope before throwing her in a trunk of the car, thinking she was dead. So now they've stabbed her, tied her with a rope, and now they think she's dead. So they put her in the trunk of the car. Okay? So they put her in the trunk of the car, and they all get in the car and they drive. So they went to Tackett's house to clean up and drink soda before realizing their victim, now screaming in the trunk, was still alive. Okay? So Tackett proceeds to stab Shanda several more times before driving off. Once more with Lovelace to beat and sodomize Shanda with a tire iron. So they sodomized her with a tire iron. When they returned to Tackett's house, she was laughing, describing what had just happened. Finally, in the early morning hours, the torture stopped at a gas station, and they bought a 2-liter bottle of Pepsi, which they quickly emptied and refilled with gasoline. Okay? Again, driving to the remote location, the girls hauled their still alive victim, now only being able to whimper, "Mommy." Oh my God, that's heartbreaking. So this girl has been beaten. This girl has been stabbed. She has been stripped of all her clothes, and they have stuck her in a trunk. Now they have brought her back. They buy a Pepsi bottle, drink it, fill it with gasoline, and they say that when they opened the trunk, all she could whimper was "Mommy." Isn't that just heartbreaking? They wrapped her in a blanket and poured the gasoline on her. They lit Shanda on fire and drove off. Just to be sure their work was finished, later, wait, I lost my spot. Hold on. The work was finished. Melinda had them return a few minutes later to pour some more gasoline on her and watch her wither in agony and finally confirm that she was dead. So they literally took this 12-year-old girl, beat her, stabbed her, strangled her, wrapped her in a blanket, poured gasoline on her, drove away, and this Melinda girl wanted to make sure the job was done, so they drove back and literally poured more gasoline on her while she screamed in pain. And they made sure that the job was done until she stopped screaming. I can only imagine. My heart breaks for the family. My heart breaks. Oh, I cannot even imagine. So after they had done all of this, okay, this is what they did afterwards. As the aftermath, as the 4 girls ate breakfast at McDonald's just after the killing, the 4 girls laughed as they compared their sausage breakfast to Shanda's burnt corpse. Later that morning, 2 hunters had found her body. The same day, the girls started talking. Melinda told Amanda and another friend the whole story, but had them promise to keep their mouth shut. But that night, Lawrence and Rippy went straight to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office with their parents and spilled the whole story. By the next day, all 4 girls were in custody. So if you remember correctly, when I was reading, Lawrence and Rippy are the ones that did not get out of the car. They're the ones that kind of stood back, and I don't know if they did afterwards. Maybe Truth would know more about that. But from what I read, they were there, but they weren't as involved, if that makes sense. But everybody knows when you're there during a crime, you're just as guilty as the person doing the crime. So all four girls were tried as adults and accepted plea bargains in order to avoid the death penalty. So all of them got a plea deal, every single one of them, because they did not want to be put to death. Lawrence and Rippy, the younger ones, less involved in the torture and more forthcoming with the authorities, received a lighter sentence, with Lawrence getting 20 years and Rippy getting 50, shortened to 35 on an appeal. They were released in 2000 after serving 9 years. So they're already out. So they murdered this girl and they're already out. Meanwhile, Tackett and Loveless both received 60-year sentences. Loveless, the one angry with Shanda, and the ringleader behind the murder, naturally received a longer sentence than the other two girls. But why would Tackett take so much to the killing and earn herself a longer sentence as well? Tackett grew up in a strict religious household where normal teenage things were not welcome behavior. As a way of rebelling against her parents, the youngest shaved her head and started to engage in cult practices. Tackett told people in an interview that I didn't know Shanda at all. I didn't go into that evening knowing anything was going to happen, wanting anything to happen. I didn't. Pure pressure. That's all it was. It spiraled out of control way too fast. It's something that should have never happened. So, basically, all of these girls are now out of jail. All of them. So the 60, Melinda, she just got out of jail in 2000. She did get the longest sentence, but she's out. Correct, Truth? I'm almost positive that's what I read, is she's out. Hold on. I'm going to double check, but I'm almost sure she just got out. Let me double check real quick, because I don't want to be wrong. Yes, she was released. So it happened in 1992, and she was supposed to get 60 years. She is now 43 years old, and she served more than 26 years in prison. That's all she did. Out of the 60 years she got, she served 26. Yes, she was released in 2018. So all these girls did this horrendous thing, and they're already walking the streets. It's unbelievable. Truth, do you want to come up and fill in anywhere that I might not have? Because this case, Truth knows the father of Shanda. So she was really close to this case. So I bet you she could come in and give us a little backstory and a little bit more that I might have not got through my research. What a sick story, and I can't believe they didn't get life without parole. I agree, Long Island girl. I cannot believe they didn't get life either. I put the link in the chat, Truth. They should have got life. I mean, they took the plea deal because they didn't want to get death. But you would think, okay, take death off, let them do their plea, but at least give them life. I cannot believe they got 20 years and 60 years. And they literally tortured this girl. They tortured her and burned her alive at 15, 16, and 17 years old. They literally burnt a little 12-year-old alive. And they're out. They're out. They get to enjoy their life now. Do they still live in the same town? I am not sure. I would think not. I mean, not that I would do something like that, but I wouldn't think I would have take a life, have a life. Yeah. I'm going to post it again. I don't know if we lost the truth. She might be getting stuff together. Oh, thank you, Annie C. I wish I felt better. I feel like I was kind of scatterbrained because I'm not feeling that great. So I hope I did a good job. I hope I did a good job for truth because I know this case really meant a lot to her just because she knew the family. It is terrifying. And it sounds like the parents did everything and anything to try to protect her. And being 12 years old, they came and her parents were awake and she was like, no, you need to go until my parents are asleep. She just really felt like these people were going to be her friends. Oh, here's truth. Hey, girl.
Hey. Yeah, so that's New Albany is my hometown. So this was very close to me. And okay, you've talked about the crime, and it even goes into more detail, so much so that the mortician that took in Shanda's body quit after he saw what he saw. That's how much
Really?
it affected. That's how much it affected him. Uh, Sam Sarkison was one of the cops on the force who was called out to the scene. He was an Indiana State police officer. He also ended up quitting. Uh, with Melinda serving the longest sentence, uh, she actually, now keep in mind, if you watch the Dr. Phil episode, you'll see where Jackie, Melinda's mom, or Shanda's mom, and her sister, and they're very, very, very angry, and I don't blame them. But over the years, Melinda joined the Train a Dog program while she was in prison,
Yes,
and
I read that.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she asked permission from Jackie to train a dog and name it Shanda, or train a dog in honor of Shanda and name it Angel or something like that.
Yes, the dog's
So,
name was Angel, but she wanted to, because she wasn't good to Shanda, she wanted to prove to the mom that she could, she has changed, and she wanted to have Angel and show that she was remorseful and all that. Yes.
and eventually Jackie had to let go of the hate because it was destroying her. Steve, her dad, literally felt so much guilt because Shanda was at his house when she was lured out that he went to a cabin on a local lake. It's Patoka Lake. It's in French Lick, Indiana. And he literally drank himself to death.
Oh my goodness.
As he's going into the courtroom, that's back before we had a lot of metal detectors or anything like that. But because it was such a high emotion case, they were being patted down. Steve had actually taken a gun with him, and he was going to kill the girls. And he was going to spend the rest of his life in prison over it. He didn't care. Uh, of course, the gun was found, and nothing was really done to him because everybody could pretty much understand why he was doing what he was doing. Steve was a friend of mine. We both belonged to a club, kind of like the VFW or the It's called the 40 and 8. So we both belonged to the same club. We drank a lot of beers together, cried a lot of tears together. Uh, he just became a shell of a man. Where Jackie went on to do speeches, to talk to junior high schoolers, to talk to high school kids about the peer pressure. I mean, remember, Shanda was only 12.
I
She
know.
didn't know about uh before Ainsley. Uh I was friends with him when this did happen. But Shanda was 12. She didn't know about her sexuality. Uh Amanda Heverin, in my opinion, and
Yeah,
she
that's what
knows.
I was just going to ask you. You said Amanda was involved a lot more than what they're putting out there. So I wanted you to kind of touch on that, how you felt like she was involved a lot more.
Well, I can't stand her, and she's still in my hometown. And I ran into her one time, and I told her, I said, in my opinion, you're a fucking child molester. Uh, she
Right, because she
basically,
was 16, right? And Shanda was 12, right? Amanda was 16 as well, right? From what I
yeah.
read.
But
Yes.
she went on the Dr. Phil show too, and all she could say is, "Hey, I lost a basketball scholarship over this." But the whole time, she had every opportunity to stop this from happening. But she swore she didn't believe Melinda when Melinda said she was going to hurt Shanda. I mean, at the time, Shanda weighed like 92 pounds, maybe. She was 12.
Yep.
And her parents did everything in their power. They even put her in a Catholic school uh, called
Yeah.
Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
Yep.
Uh, they did everything to they what the reason the how they found out about this triangle was they found some letters in Shanda's room, and that alerted her mom to what was going on between Melinda, Amanda, and Shanda. And her mom kind of freaked out and said, "That's it. You're not going back to the junior high school that they went to is the same junior high I went to. It's called Hazelwood Junior High." Uh, but her mom kind of freaked out when she found these letters, and she's like, "That's it." The following Monday, she took her and enrolled her in Our Lady of Perpetual Help, but which is a Catholic school. Just because it says Perpetual Help doesn't mean it's for kids with problems or anything. It's just a Catholic school.
Right, because Shanda didn't have any problems. She was,
No.
from everything I read, she was a great 12-year-old. She played sports. She was happy. She made friends really easily. She was a great kid.
But what they did to this 12-year-old before setting her on fire, and the only reason I know this is because Steve broke down and told me, was absolutely horrendous. They sprayed Windex in her wounds. Hope Rippey did that. Tony Lawrence, when they stopped at the gas station and they got the Pepsi and they dumped it out to fill it with gas, Tony Lawrence had every opportunity, because she went in to buy the Pepsi, to tell the person in the gas station that they had a little girl in their trunk. She had every opportunity to stop this. Now, according to the coroner, at that point, Shanda had already been tortured, but probably would have survived.
Yes, that's what I read too. That when they brought her back after they, you know, stabbed her,
I mean,
sodomized her,
with a
all the
tire,
horrible,
too.
with a tire iron, all the horrible things they did, and had her in the trunk. And I read that they thought that she was screaming. They thought she could have lived. If they never would have set her on fire, she probably could have lived. But they went one step further.
Yeah, I hope Rippy is married and has children now. I'm not sure what happened to Lori Tackett. Uh, I'm not even really sure what happened to Melinda. Tony Lawrence went back to her hometown of Madison, Indiana. Hope Rippey moved to Indianapolis, Indiana. And I think she married a female. Uh, I'm not sure, like I said, what's happened to Melinda. I can't believe Melinda could show her face back in New Albany, but I don't
Yeah,
know
that's
that.
what everybody was asking if she was still in the hometown. And I would say I wouldn't think she would be. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in the hometown, but I don't know. You don't know that either. You don't know if she's in the hometown or not.
Well, and you know all those things you said about Larry, which is Melinda's dad. And
Yes.
don't get me wrong, he was a scumbag. He was a scumbag, and he did beat Melinda's mom because
Hmm.
there's pictures in a book where she's in the hospital where Larry had beat her. But all that other stuff, none of that was proven. None of that was proven. That was Melinda's story.
Really?
Yeah, none of it was proven. It was never proven he molested him, because my little sister went to school with Melinda's sister. And it just, I mean, I'm not going to say it didn't happen. And
Right.
some of those girls did lead horrendous lives,
Yep.
but
But it's
by
still.
this by the same token, but this is what I wanted to tie into gang mentality, because you've got two girls, Tony Lawrence and Hope Rippey, that were perfectly normal, came from normal homes. You know, uh, Tackett had her, wackadoo cult shit. Uh, Melinda had her troubles with divorced parents and whatever. But the just the way they tortured this little girl. I mean, at any given moment, and
Somebody
if
could
you,
have stopped it. Right.
yes,
Somebody could have stopped it.
and when asked in court, uh, why didn't you try to stop this? Everybody was like, I was scared. I was afraid. I was scared. Well, it would have been three against one had you,
Hmm.
whoever the one might have been, whether it be Tackett or Melinda. But Tackett did most of the damage to Shanda's body as far as the tire tool and all goes. I mean, there was like brain matter in her trunk.
Well,
Uh, so, I mean, it was just one of the most heinous things
so
that,
Melinda was the mastermind, but Tackett did most of the damage.
yes,
Okay.
Tackett was like crazy and saying shit like, I mean, to be honest with you, I really do think in the very beginning that Melinda was just gonna try to scare Shanda, which is horrible. You don't take a knife, to try to scare somebody. But I do think that was her intentions. And I do think that Tackett kind of took over mentally. And, Tackett had always said she wanted to know what it felt like to kill somebody.
Yes, because
And,
I watched the Dr. Phil clip, and I didn't want to play it because I know Dr. Phil. If
oh,
you get in the
yeah.
this stream would be taken down. So I
Yeah.
didn't want to play it, but there is, if you put in Shanda's name in Google, there is where the Dr. Phil clip is, and that's her Tackett talking how she always wanted to know what it was like to kill somebody and what it felt like to see blood and really crazy stuff. Yeah.
So, no, there is no excuses, Galway girl. You're right. There is no excuse for what these girls, and in my opinion, if they were to ever get out of prison, it would have been long after they were of childbearing years.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they would have never ever been able to have a child of their own. Uh,
Right.
it would have.
Now,
But
how is it that they had the death penalty? They took the plea deal to get off the death penalty. How come they didn't get life? Do you know that reason or no? I mean, I know you followed the case and I knew you knew the family, but how is it that they got 20 years and 60 years when they were looking at death? Most times you get death off the table, you get life. How
well,
is it
the
that
only
they didn't?
the reason the death penalty came off so quick is because of their ages. And the prosecutor was afraid he would not find a jury that would put young teenage girls who looked the way they did when they went into court. I mean, of course, they're in little dresses and, they've got glasses on and their hair's done up in a bun. And, except for Tackett, she's always looked like a crazy chick. And I mean, with the shaved blonde head. But the prosecutor was afraid, come on, Lolly, that he couldn't get a jury to convict on death. So he got Hope and Tony agreed to testify against Melinda and Lori Tackett. And that's what got them. Plus, they downplayed what their part of the crime was. Tony Lawrence didn't play much in the crime, except she did nothing to stop it. Hope Rippey did spray Windex into Shanda's wounds when she was in the trunk and taunted her. And she also poured some of the gasoline, I think, on the second round, the second time they went back to burn her. But because they were willing to turn state's evidence, they got the 20-year sentence, and Melinda and Lori both got the 60-year sentence. The
When they only did 24 of it. How sick is that? They didn't even do the 60 years. I mean, she's 43 years old walking the streets and doing 20
Come
years
on,
for what
Lolly.
they did. What they both did, all of them did. It's just insane to know that they're all walking the streets today. Insane.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you watch the Dr. Phil episode, um, Hope is on there and she really has no answers. I mean, she has to look this mother and Shanda's sister in the eye. And, when Jackie asked her why she was just a baby, Hope has no answer. And I don't know what answer she could have given her that would have ever satisfied Jackie. Like I said, Jackie now goes around and she's a paid speaker now, but for a long time she went around to local junior high schools and talked about gang mentality and how easy it is to get wrapped up in hate and just be led in a direction that you probably didn't want to go. But like I said, what they put that poor kid through is something that I'll never forget that. It happened on my brother's birthday. I'll never forget when it came across the news that Shanda had been found on Lemon Road out in Madison. And there's still a memorial there for her to this day. People still
Yes.
go there and put flowers and.
Yeah, there was actually a picture of people that had flowers all put around. They had hay bales around the area where they could stick flowers or balloons in it. I saw that picture where they had still the memorial where they found her.
Good night, JoJo.
Night, JoJo. Thank you for coming in. I hope you're feeling better.
Do you know, out of all four of the girls, the only one that never asked for a reduced sentence, that never went, in front of parole and asked to be let out was Lori Tackett.
Really?
Even though she got out before Melinda, she was the only one that never went in front of the parole board and asked to be released.
That says a lot, I would think. Like, she doesn't trust herself out in the real world. It makes you wonder, Now, how come Amanda never got in trouble when they knew for a fact that she was told about this? Melinda left the murder scene that night and told her the next day, plus telling her that she was going to do this. How come she never got charged with anything?
She claims that she never believed that Melinda would really do it. She never believed that Melinda would really go through with it. And if you think about it, even though I can't stand Amanda Hevern, if you think about it, you really would think that a 16, 15-year-old girl saying they're going to kill somebody, you really would think it was
Right,
not serious,
right.
you know? So I got to give her that. But
Yes,
the lack of remorse that Amanda showed after this happened, I can't stand her.
yeah.
All she was worried about was she lost a basketball scholarship because of the way Shanda's family drug her through the mud. And
And
her
when you,
mom flat out told her, you are a child groomer. You are a child molester. Shanda was fucking 12.
right,
That is a child.
yep. And to come to think, not to say it's Amanda's fault, but at the same time, this all stemmed because Amanda broke up with Melinda and started dating Shanda when you're dating a 12-year-old and you're 16. How can you not say she was a child groomer? She absolutely was. And how did she not get charged with that? At least, having sex or relations with an underage. She didn't even get that. That's what confuses me. Shanda was 12. She was 16 and she didn't even get in trouble for that.
Jackie
Probably
tried.
she did
Jackie,
try.
she did try to get Amanda brought up on molestation charges, but because of Amanda's age, and there was only a couple years difference between Amanda and Shanda, it just didn't happen.
It didn't
But
stick.
it actually took Jackie and it took Shanda's parents to get a court order because Melinda continued to wear the ring that she stole off Shanda's finger while she was in prison.
Are you kidding me?
So it actually took them to go in front of a judge and demand to get that ring back.
How twisted is that, though, Truth? To
I
look
know.
down at your hand and know that that ring came off as somebody you tortured and beat and burned alive. That is twisted.
Yep. It's all twisted. But, I mean, Shanda would be what, mid to late 30s now? I mean, that happened in what, 1986?
It happened in, hold on, let me look. It
Not 86,
was,
90,
no,
90.
92.
Yeah,
92.
92.
Yep. January 11th, 1992.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, think about that. Shanda would be, she would have a family, she would have kids, she would have gone to college, she would have been married. She was a gorgeous little girl. Uh, it's sad all the way around. But
It is sad. It
Jenna,
is
I appreciate you covering this case. Like I said, when I think about gang mentality, this case always comes to mind
I see
because
why. I see why. Because that's exactly what this was gang mentality for sure.
I really honestly don't believe that Hope and Tony ever dreamed something like this was going to happen. And I don't believe in my heart of hearts that Melinda really wanted to kill her. But once Lori started, they all just kind of moved in like a pack of wolves. And like I said, whenever I think of gang mentality, I think of this case. It's kind of like some of the chats here on YouTube when, you see a certain topic being discussed, you see the chats go, they lean, they start getting mean. I've done it before,
We all
but
have. We all have. We've talked about that. Look, we didn't like people based on because Laura didn't like them, not because they did anything to us. So we've all done it, and it's easy to do without even thinking. You don't
it
even think
is,
about it
it is
until
easy to do.
it is.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what Jackie goes around to these different schools. And she does charge now as a public speaker, but she also works in the local courthouse I believe she ran for clerk at one time, county clerk. But she does go around. She is a paid speaker now. She did it for free for a long time. But she goes around to these junior highs and these high schools and makes these kids understand that you gotta use your own head. You can't follow, it's just such a shame that all of it, it only took one of them to stop it. All it would have
Right. They
taken
went
was
to
one of
two
them.
gas stations, they went to the house. There was so many opportunities in this case to speak and to end it, and not one of them did. I mean, they tortured her through the whole night, pretty much. You got to say they picked her up at 12:30. They tortured her all night long, and they went to two gas stations. They had her in the car when they were looking for directions because they got lost, and she had already been stabbed once. And it's just insane. There was so many opportunities for somebody to speak out and say, this is not okay. I'm getting out of the car. I'm calling the law. Because you got to think, the next morning, two of those girls had no problem running with their parents to the police station. Why couldn't they do that before she died? They
Yeah.
had enough to do it after she died, because it says right there that the two that weren't involved as much went to the police station the next morning with their parents and told them everything. Why couldn't they do it that night? You know what I mean? If you were scared then, you would think you would be scared the next morning, and you weren't. So I don't understand. I don't get. I mean,
I believe Tony had went to a bowling alley and told a boyfriend, a male friend, and that's what pushed her into going to her parents and telling them what they had done. And out of everything that they did, I think the story about them going to McDonald's
yeah,
probably hurt my heart more than anything. I mean, yeah, the torture of Shanda, I'm sorry that, even her mom and dad said, is could you have, if you had to kill her, could you have not just taken her out in a field and shot her?
right,
And only because of the way they tortured her and what she actually lived through for how long.
right.
You got to remember, guys, this went on for over 24 hours,
Yes, it
this
did.
torturing. And she was still alive after all of this torture.
Yep. She was alive when they set her on fire. She was
Yeah.
alive. Like, that's horrible. And then to go to McDonald's and laugh about it and pick on her with those sausages. It's just disgusting.
Yeah,
I
to
don't
say, look, those sausages look like Shanda's. I mean, I guess that's the part that made me the sickest out of, because you can get the book. It's written by Aphrodite Jones. Actually, I'm sitting here looking at it right now. But
what's the name of the book?
hold on, let me grab it. There's been a couple books written, but this is the best one I've found. And like I said, it's called Cruel Sacrifice.
Okay.
And it's like by Aphrodite Jones. You can probably pick it up for almost nothing now because of the,
Right. It's been
the
so
age
long.
of the case.
Yeah.
But all right, Jenna, I appreciate you covering this. I'm gonna jump
Thank you
down. I'll
so
be
much
back in chat.
thank you so much for coming up, Truth.
All right, talk to you soon.
All right. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. A sad, sad, sad case. To know that these girls are out walking the streets is scary. I hope they learn something in jail, and I hope they're being more productive members of society. But I don't know how you can be after you did that to a little girl. But, you know, like they say, sometimes people can be reformed, and let's hope that these girls were learn something from this and can be reformed. Like Truth said, one of them has children. I can't imagine them having children. I don't think they should have children, but that's just my opinion. Thank you, Mar. Thank you, Annie C. I am trying. Now, like I said, we've done a missing, we've done an unsolved, now we've done a solved. I'm definitely going to stick with the true crime. I really like it, and I really like you guys coming in and supporting me, and I love the feedback. I'm glad you guys are all enjoying it. I definitely will be doing another case. I just got to find one that kind of jumps out at me. And I definitely will be continuing to do this. Thank you, Just for You. I really appreciate it, guys. I'm going to jump off. I hope you guys all have a wonderful Sunday, and I hope you guys have a great beginning of your week. I know it's Monday, boo-hoo Monday, but let's hope everybody has a good week and everybody stays healthy and well during this crazy time. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. If you have not hit the likes, please hit the likes. And I hope you guys all have a fabulous week. Thank you again for being here. And I will talk to you guys again. Night.